Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. As always, I am joined by Jeremy Cozier.
Hello.
And my name is Julian Mush. We did this backwards this time. See, I knew I was forgetting something, Jeremy. I forgot how to do the intro.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is because there's just so much on my mind about what's going on in the entertainment world right now. And we've got a lot to cover.
What do you mean? What's going on?
well, Jeremy, where do I begin?
Why is it eliciting this response from you? Is it physical and emotional?
I would say that it's mostly emotional. Physically, I'm mostly just tired.
Emotional damage.
Yeah. Well, I'm more like, Jeremy. It's like, if you're like hurt enough times, then you kind of become numb to it. That's kind of I feel like that's the part I'm at now.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So.
People are like, what are they talking about?
Well, we're talking about Warner Brothers Discovery, specifically under the keen watchful eye of David Zaslav. And we
all know who David Zaslav is now.
Well, here's the problem. I don't want to know. I was just thinking about this. I don't want to know who this person is. I don't give a shit who the CEO of a movie studio is. I shouldn't care about that. You know what I'm saying?
He was a studio head of, maybe not even studio. I mean, like Discovery itself, right? Before.
Yeah, he's coming from Discovery. So a lot of long
reality TV.
Yeah.
Unscripted.
Yeah, just the kind of stuff we like the most, right?
Yeah.
Marcos in the chat, friend of the show. Marcos, glad to have you here. He said I scuffed the intro, which first time for everything. This is not the first time I've ruined the intro. I've usually just cut it out. I usually just cut it out of the podcast.
It's too late,
not this time. Yeah, exactly. We are live. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter still, all three until further notice, until one of them is just unceremoniously turned off. But make sure to subscribe, join the chat live, be part of the conversation. Today's conversation, here's the thing, Jeremy. A lot of negative news. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. And actually, now that I mention that, I recently texted someone. I have some mail being routed here, and they got a ticket. Looks like a speeding ticket. I don't know. I didn't open it, but I just texted them a picture of the mail, and I just said emoji of a bear, of bad news, and sent that.
Wait,
maybe, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You don't think that's funny? I want to just lighten the mood. They know they're getting a ticket. I'm trying to help them feel better.
The feeling of when you get a ticket is just there's nothing that can kind of ease that.
No,
so when they just see a bear emoji,
that's right.
And you're just like all innocent, don't have to pay a huge fine.
Right.
They're not gonna laugh probably.
Okay, yeah. No, but I just want it's important to bring levity. We're trying to bring joy. I mean, that's really why we do this podcast. We're trying to bring joy to the world.
Just be like, well, bring your wallet, basically.
I should have just sent one of those emojis with the money with wings. And
if it was attached to like a real tip, then sure.
Well, no, money with wings is in like, here's the ticket, your money is flying away. That's kind of
even. It's more on the nose, I guess.
It's a little bit darker in the joke. Yeah. Anyway, we got to be the bearer of bad news here with a few big stories. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk
People
about.
Already know. Just let's be clear here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Warner Brothers shelving Batgirl, and a lot of kind of other weirdness going on. We're going to talk about, on the bright side, we're going to talk about San Diego Comic-Con. We'll probably transition, from the kind of the lackluster outing that DC had at Comic-Con to the much more exciting announcements. I don't know, Jeremy, like if you had to guess, like would you say it's like 50 times better, 100 times better, the announcements that Marvel made versus DC?
It's astronomical. Like
it's like can't even count it.
Where it's like you see this huge spreadsheet of all these logos, these comic book logos that you've read when you were a child, and they're coming to life.
Yep.
And then the bottom part of the picture of the meme is like someone just like poking like a dead body on the ground, and it's DC, and it says, "Come on, do something." And then up top, it's Avengers: Secret Wars, Avengers: Kang Dynasty,
right?
Daredevil, 18 episodes.
Yeah, 18 episodes. I know, crazy. Okay, we'll get to all that. We'll also touch on this is older news. I wanted to touch on it last episode, but we'll touch on some of the Emmy nominations because there's some interesting stuff in there, and it'll help break up some of the sadness. Talking about other things that break up some of the negative stuff, we got a new Andor trailer, although that also comes with a little bit of a caveat, which is that the date is shifting. We'll talk about that. Beautiful trailer, though. Absolutely. I was already pretty excited, but I am now like next level excited for that show. Very stoked. There was some I want to say TVAs, but that's from Loki. There's this kind of television critics, the TCAs, that's what it is, association event going on right now, which is always super locked down. But news comes out of it. The director, showrunner of Andor was there, so there's some insights from that we can talk about a little bit as well. Interesting bits about the volume and what they're doing with it, or maybe without it. We'll get to that. But before we do, I'll just quickly mention, if you like us on Facebook or Twitter at Tower Babblecast, that will be the best way. You don't like someone on Twitter. That's follow them on Twitter and Facebook. So that's where at Tower Babblecast.
It just sounds like if you like us or you don't like us.
That's right. If you like us, go follow us. Yeah. Come follow us on those social media platforms. That's the best place to keep up with what we're doing. Specifically Twitter. Big Twitter head over here. Although the ongoing jokes are always, it doesn't make your life better. Being on Twitter is not a net positive for anyone in their life. But I do like keeping up with the news.
I disagree, but sure.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of the joke, right? That's like the old hey, if you want to feel worse,
whatever your mind is focused on, it's going to wander to those corners and those areas, right. And you're going to read it, and it's sometimes you're on the right path, or you're focused on the wrong thing.
Well, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in negativity anywhere on the internet, but it can be particularly hard on Twitter. But anyway,
damn negativity.
Yeah, you don't. I'm an ideas man. I thrive off positivity. So yeah, Twitter, Facebook, like I said, YouTube and all that stuff for the live channels. And if you want to help support the show, patreon.com/Tower Babblecast. We do a monthly film club exclusive for the Patreon subscribers. We just wrapped up completing the Boondock Saints saga, the first and second movie. We did those back to back. So you can, if you're a fan of those, and I know there's a lot of fans of those movies out there, go listen to those and subscribe on Patreon. Just as little as $5 a month helps keep the lights on here. So that's super exciting as well. We're doing next month, Jeremy, this month, we're doing Swingers, a movie I've never seen. Jeremy, I don't think you've ever seen. Classic. But we always like to touch on the classics every once in a while, so excited to do that. Look for that on the Patreon this month. Okay. Let's get into this. Marco's talking about Comic-Con. The city downtown on Saturday was crazy. Missed having the full event down here. Yeah, I mean, Comic-Con came back for the first time in, was it 2 years? In person, live.
We had some listeners who were at the event or just lived.
Well, I think Marcos is in San Diego. Okay. That's the sentiment I'm picking up on here. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like if you're in San Diego and you have the opportunity to go to that show, I feel like and you listen to this show, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice. It's like the pilgrimage that all nerds need to make, right, to San Diego Comic-Con. One day, perhaps. I'm just hoping that a Star Wars, we get another Star Wars celebration in like a Chicago or like a Minneapolis or something, and I can then go to that, and it's like in driving distance. Next year it's in London, so not really an easy one to get to. Anyway, let's talk about Warner Brothers. Jeremy, it seems like every fucking episode, excuse my language,
Jesus.
I know. This is how I feel about it, though. I know. It feels like every single time we have to start with some sort of bullshit Warner Brothers story about how they're doing something really fucking stupid. Again, excuse my language.
And now a new set of people are super pissed off, and then they're pissed off at the other set of people who were pissed off before, and they're calling each other hypocrites.
Yeah, that's a funny side effect of this whole thing. To me, that's the fun. It's like, because I think one of the articles, so there's an article from IGN that I read to kind of catch up with some of this stuff, and it was called the Batgirl cancellation, why it happened, the social media fallout, and more, yada yada yada. But they like to choose a couple choice tweets every once in a while for these, and one of them, which I'm sure Jeremy you've probably already seen. This one's from just some random tweet. So I assume all the folks who rallied to get a director's vision released by the studio that scrapped it will immediately throw all their weight behind Batgirl now, right? Question mark. Which, of course, I think is what you're alluding to here. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cynicism out there about all this stuff. It's like I've seen a lot of people defending kind of like the work of the studio, not the studio, but like the production companies and the actors and the people who worked on the movie, being like, this is bullshit that they can't release the movie that they worked on. Though I agree with that sentiment, I feel like that's a bit of a straw man's argument. Like, really, guys, that's what you're really worried about? Maybe this is the cynicism coming out of me again, but I get the impression that that's not really what people care about. The impression is that really what people care about here is that they continue to mess around with the limited slate that they already have, get fans excited, then pull a bait and switch.
Appease as many fans as they can.
Right.
And then that's clearly dividing people.
Well, it's like
the choices made.
They're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I do sympathize to some degree, right? Like, hey, you've got this whole movement of restore the Snyderverse stuff, and it certainly feels like they are having nothing. They don't have anything to do with that, right? They are distancing themselves as much from that as they possibly can. In fact, I saw this a couple people mentioning that this move was done to spite that, and I don't agree with that. I think that's a pretty that doesn't fly for me. It doesn't make sense. So you would shelve a $90 million movie just to spite the people who a segment of your fans. What did we say?
I don't know, I don't know about that. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I don't think that's the case. Or you do think that that's why they're doing it?
No,
I'm confused.
There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that there's no way
to do with fans and what they stand essentially, but that's what fans online who want to be heard will make it seem.
Well, I mean,
now they're attacking both sides. I just find it like dumbfounding that after everything we've seen Warner Brothers do and pull, somehow Zack Snyder's still to blame or is used like constantly.
Right.
I'm dumbfounded at this point.
Well, I mean, I think certain fans are certainly, and certain people might be saying that stuff. I don't think that that's what the studio's saying here. I mean, the reason I think people were saying that this was another kind of attack on the Snyderverse stuff was because J.K. Simmons was supposed to reprise his role as Commissioner Gordon, who was obviously the commissioner from Zack Snyder's Justice League. But
yeah, well, there's a lot of actors who are from the Snyderverse, quote unquote, who are coming back. Like even Michael Shannon is supposed to appear in the Flash movie.
Well, yeah, we don't. Let's not. We have Jerry put a pin in that Flash movie thing because here's the sentiment I think that's most fair here in terms of like calling BS on what Warner Brothers is doing here is this idea that
a business decision.
Right, on a quote unquote business decision, right?
Yeah,
is
we
that
extrapolate it and go right down to the actors who were cast in the lead.
Well, I think it's
and we make that comparison as if that was the starting point to the business decision. It's not.
It's not.
So for me, I just cannot care less about that argument.
So
even though I sympathize wholeheartedly, like Leslie Grace, this was her breakout role.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a role of a lifetime. You get to be Batman essentially, or the female equivalent of that.
Yep.
Carry on that mantle, that name, something new, something fresh. I mean, I guess it was done in some form in the 90s movies with Alicia.
Well,
Silverstone.
yeah, that's true.
Obviously, countless animated stuff and all that stuff, but
yeah.
And then Brendan Fraser, right?
Yeah,
huge in the news.
That one
So
really stings me. I feel like which I
yeah,
forgot about, which was that Brendan Fraser was going to be
right.
the villain in this movie, and I was like, actually, the more I read about the movie and it being canceled, the more I was like, you know what? Actually, I did want to watch this movie.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
And then he's in there, and then like, and now he was cast and announced like during the time where it was being
Right.
released, like of what he was dealing with and being blacklisted,
Yeah.
and how he felt the public perceived him, and then this like kind-hearted, wonderful moment where like everyone's kind of rallying behind him, and they even have like a behind-the-scenes video from the set of Batgirl, where they're filming on his like 54th birthday or something like that,
Right.
and they have like a cake for him and everything, and everyone's cheering. So it would have been really exciting just to see him, you know, finally back in a huge movie. And then let's not forget Michael Keaton, right? This
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is
Exactly.
supposed to return to the box office, essentially turn
Yes.
to the forefront, uh, in a move made by Warner Brothers, AT&T, HBO Max driven kind of era with
Hmm.
Walter Hamada in the mix.
Well, era
Uh,
is such a weird word because it was like that. How long was that? Like 4 years? Like not even. Like it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
it's so crazy. All these
But
reactions and actions to those things. Yeah.
decisions that are made while those people are in play have to finally play out. So with
Yeah, but
Hamada, it's like
it's
Shazam was part of it,
yeah.
Black Adam,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then Batgirl for sure. So this is, and his contract is up within the year pretty much, and he's nowhere to be found on WBD's website or any of the mentions of kind of the DC studio head, which they're still looking for. So basically, all of Walter Hamada's in the new DC post cancellation of of Zack Snyder's Justice League, their decisions there, right? Bringing in Joss Whedon,
Yeah.
or sorry, not Joss Whedon, shortly after that. Um, but they just wanted to. Walter Hamada's goal was to just kind of use whatever characters they have currently, whatever stories, and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no cohesive plan to kind of join anything together. They just
Right.
wanted
What was
small
the
investments
what was the
and
line for
get bigger
Batgirl?
returns.
We'll figure it
What's
out.
that?
We have a plan. We'll figure it
Oh
out.
yeah,
Something
they
like
told
that.
the
Yeah.
directors kind of were mentioning that when they were questioned about it. It's just like
Yeah.
don't. They said don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And with the inclusion of Michael Keaton kind of driving this post Snyderverse universe forward, it kind of just seemed like it was a lot of that nostalgia bait and just kind of celebrating the characters. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
But it's a different type of form of entertainment that, you know, maybe WBD isn't necessarily sure that it'll gain its money back or see as many ticket sales. And then clearly with Batgirl, the story also leaked that, I guess, I mean, there's stories that where it says it tested well in it, and then the recent one, I guess the new one said irredeemable.
I
Um,
see that was I saw that quote too and I was like there's no way cuz and again it's easy to point to like someone on the internet having like a really the perfectly snarky response but it's like you know since when has Warner Brothers been concerned about not releasing a bad movie? You know, it's like
right. But
this
either
is
way, it's like, what side are you going to fall on? Like, we movies get hacked to death
yeah, we saw it with
when they can
Justice League.
arrive, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and plenty of others. And it's at what point can a company, you know, when they see something that they have that was greenlit by a former executive team and has a specific budget in mind and production value in mind for that IP and how they're going to get their return. And that was to the HBO Max stuff, which is also leaking, is clearly not something they're going to continue in the same way that Jason Keelar did before he got fired, before the
Mhm.
company was then sold. So to me, like, this is crazy. It is unprecedented. It's very unfortunate. It's a $90 million production, I guess, at this point. I guess they're in post
Potentially more.
production.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be 50 to 70 million budget, and I believe it was supposed to be exclusively on HBO Max and not
Well,
anything
yeah.
else.
So apparently, what happened was they originally pitched this and Blue Beetle as HBO Max exclusive content.
Hmm.
Um, and
Very
at
much
one
side
point,
characters, but still
yeah,
exciting characters to
yeah,
see
100%,
nonetheless.
yeah. And then apparently they thought, you know what? Actually, we're gonna push for a theatrical release, so they pumped in another 30 million, $40 million, right? Um, and now they got to a point where, and this is where it's like give me a fucking break, because it's like they got to the point where like,
No,
oh, it
no, no,
wasn't
no, no. Give
testing
me a
well.
tax break. Not give me a fucking break.
Right, right. And that's really good joke, Jeremy. You should write that down. That's good stuff. Um,
You made it
but they're
basically.
like, they're like, oh, this isn't testing well. We don't think it's going to return. We're not going to get a return on our investment, so we're going to shelf them. We're going to can the movie. It's not going to see the light of day, and we're going to take a tax write off.
Mm.
And here's the thing: you can take a tax write off, as far as I understand, on a loss on a movie, even if you release it. So if you release it and it doesn't make
Well,
money, you
I
can
mean,
still get a tax write off.
we
Not
can
as
sit here and
much.
say as far as we understand, but this is so far above us. It's no
Well,
matter
but
what
it's
research we
but
do,
again, who
there's
gives a shit?
definitely
It's not about the tax write off. They can
yeah.
say that
Like
all
I
they
don't.
want. It's not.
Well,
It's
well,
not.
it's a bit no, but it is though. It's a business decision and purely based on money.
Right. I
So
guess
if
in
the,
some
you're saying that
senses,
it doesn't make sense, but I I I I find it hard to believe that anyone on a podcast can just be like it doesn't make any sense. But I they have to know what numbers they're crunching and what makes sense. But what the problem is that we see so much more beyond that. That we see the potential of artists essentially here
sure.
with the actors and the creatives involved, the directors, in showcasing what they're made of, what they have, their ideas, and that isn't being taken into consideration into the business move that they decided to do, that they calculated in when they purchased Warner Brothers for what was it, 40 something billion.
Right.
And they let out tidbits every now and then through major publications about um, it's all about show business, not show friends. That
Oh,
was one
right.
of
So
the
that was
first
that
things.
quote. That was the
So
quote.
at that point, if you were I
Yeah.
was aware of David Zaslav. I don't know if you were at that point, but like that's why I find it funny that like Zaslav is now this character that is so well known because his decisions are finally taking place after the
Right.
acquisition,
Well,
after they
here's the thing.
announced what they were going to do.
They were saying a lot of the right things, right? We want to refocus on, like, it's crazy that we don't have a Superman movie. Isn't that
Refocus, yeah,
crazy?
Ray focus, yeah,
Right.
exactly. He mentions all three of the Trinity,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they talk about saving the theatrical experience for like these major events.
Right.
So to me, that sounds exciting because that's where the budget and like the grand nature of it
Well,
can
except
come into play.
what have they greenlit that excites you? It's all they've done is cut budgets, cut productions,
Well, to me, it all
cut
depends on
things
story.
short.
It all just depends on story,
Well,
right?
sure. What story? What are they doing? They haven't. All they've done so far is cut.
Yeah,
Right?
there
It's
is no story. They cut a story right
yeah.
before it was finished.
Right.
Walter Amott and his whole goal with Toby Emmerich was to create content along with the app
Well, HBO
that
Max
would
drive
be
subscribers.
yeah
Yeah.
that would be exclusive content that clearly you don't want to spend a bunch of money on, and that's Batgirl, Blue Beetle, even Shazam number one. The budget was very low,
Yep.
and it made it was deemed a success, even though because it made it made a little bit of money, but but it was bigger in comparison to what they spent.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nowhere near like it was nowhere near $500 million or anything like that. Um, and we're getting that one. So I think it's just and look at Comic Con. We mentioned Comic Con earlier, and you
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, hopefully we go one day." I mean, I'm glad.
Sure. Glad you weren't there this
this
year.
this is the year to have
Yeah.
missed DC's Hall H. You
Yeah.
had Black Adam and Shazam,
And
and
that's
The
it.
Rock
Yeah.
sells it the best he can, and he puts on the suit and comes out in smoke. I mean,
That's
okay,
pretty cool. Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
there's no mention of those two characters literally in the same comic book arch nemesis. You, uh,
Right.
you're not going to tease you two fighting because no one gives a shit. No
Yeah.
one cares.
It,
We don't. You're not talking about why they're talking about Shazam versus Black Adam. We're
I.
talking about
Yeah.
where's
Huh?
Superman. You're going to tease
Huh?
Superman
Huh?
multiple times leading up to this. You're going to tweet about it in your production company, and how your number one boss is the fans, and then you come up short in Hall H, and you're talking about being electrifying, and
Well,
you're essentially like scoffed a little bit when you say, "I'll just say this: it depends on who's playing Superman." This shit's actually embarrassing
Well, it just
for
here's the
DC
thing.
fans.
This is all fault. This is all happening in front of our eyes. I think in like the
Yeah, everyone's shooting
90s or
their shot.
whatever.
Remember when I said
Yeah.
that last episode? Everyone in the Warner Brothers like camp, if you're The Rock, if you're production partners,
What, trying to keep their
if
job?
no, you're shooting your shot unturned because there's no focus yet as
Right.
of what we know. We don't they haven't laid out their plans. They're not sprinkling anything out. They're not announcing major names yet. Just
So do you
a little
think
here and there.
so I'm Jeremy, I want to take a step back here. I want to understand your sentiment. That this is what this happening is embarrassing. I agree. It sounds like you're
But
not
it's
that
all
broken up necessarily about
yeah.
Batgirl being
No, well,
canceled.
I mean, at this point, like I said, I'm dumbfounded over a lot of things. How
Right.
a lot of Twitter's reacting. How all the different segments. It's mind-boggling, really.
Imploding, you think you said
Um,
yesterday.
it's
Yeah.
just brutal. Um, I lost
But
it. What was the
yeah,
question
well, I'm
though?
just I get the question is kind of like taking a step back, looking at this as a whole. Are you looking at the future of DC and saying
Oh,
it
right.
sounds like they're making cuts so that they could make better decisions
Yeah,
later?
like
Or you have
everything
confidence?
that's on current slate to release, we've known about since before this
Yeah.
merger.
Yep.
Okay, there
Yep.
hasn't been one new thing except for Joker 2, but those people were already attached to the Walter Hamada part of
Well, yeah,
Warner
and it's
Bros.
like, what are you
And
gonna
that
do?
movie
Say
was
no to that
huge.
movie? Come on,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And that like just a side note, like I don't like that's a movie where I could agree like we don't like it's weird. I feel like it's weird that it's happening because like I mean, he won the Oscar for the first one. Like it just seems like
Hmm.
such a special one-off that
Like
could be like it
one's
seems
enough.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems
yeah.
very odd to do another one, especially with the lead actor in mind. Like I
Lady
just
Gaga.
I no
Oh,
not for the
or
new I
oh, yeah,
mean
yeah, 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 yeah,
Joaquin
yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
I just didn't think he'd want to double dip, but I mean that's also exciting that he does want to
Well,
double dip. But
I
is it
think
because they're
that's
giving
it.
it $70 million?
Well, listen, I
Um
think here's the deal. I don't think that this is the point in Joaquin Phoenix's career where he decides he's going to sell out. Like if he's going to make the movies that he
why
wants to
is he
make.
asking for $70 million?
It was a that movie made bank last time.
So he just
I
wants
mean,
his fair share
I
of it.
don't
I
know. I
think
mean,
that's fair.
maybe, but I think
I
more
mean, if it makes
importantly,
a
I think more
billion dollars,
likely,
if it makes $1 billion, doesn't it make sense for Joaquin to make 100 million at
y-
least?
yeah. Well, I'm not
So
sure.
that's all that is. That's a guarantee that you're going to make pretty close to that. If you know what I mean. Plus there'll be
Right. Plus your
residuals.
back end stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'll definitely be over 100 million within, and he's like a producer, right? So it's like
Well, is
he's
it
making
or listen? We're being very cynical again. Is it possible that the script is good and Todd Phillips came to him and said, "Look what I've got design. You know, we're going to do something
right. Sorry.
new and interesting."
Yeah,
Right.
I guess we were just focused on the 70 million, which we know is like that was it, like that was
Right.
announced essentially. But yeah, I mean, they do strike me as creatives who want to say something new,
Right.
and I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I
But that's a
agree. But I
side
think
note.
back to
Anyways,
but back to
back to the initial
the
point there.
main
So
circus,
to
literally.
me, I just find it a bit amusing the overreactions, even though I can agree that it that emotion, that sentiment can be tied directly to the actors and the creatives involved.
Sure.
Anyone loses out on presenting their baby, that's it's that's very bad. Like
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
sucks.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're compensated, in some capacity.
Well,
Um,
sure. The
in terms of
speculation that
just
they
like it's a
might
job.
sue, that there's like people might
Sure.
sue them over this. It seems likely, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just in terms of that business decision, them talking about the theatrical events, um, even a quote from Ben Affleck like years ago, who like also predicted like Netflix and streaming.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said there'll be like 10 big movies a year that are
Or
major
basically, are we
IP.
not already there? Is that not already the
Well,
true?
yeah, exactly. That's what
Like,
I'm saying.
yeah.
So that's why these small things are just cutting ties now, and I guarantee you it makes sense in terms of Zaslav's plan because
Well,
he had like a plan to cut like a lot of spending, a lot of because they're in so much debt, right? Like
yeah. I
it's
can actually
all
go
about
over
that too.
specifically the DC stuff that's up in the air, right? So we've got obviously the Batgirl stuff. We've got on top of that, of course, they already canceled the Wonder Twins movie that was announced, right? That's not a big deal. We
Yeah,
have
you got your
Aquaman:
Wonder
The
Twins
Lost
taste
Kingdom.
in The Boys
Yeah,
season
exactly.
4
That's all I
or
need.
3.
That's fine. Exactly.
What season was it?
Season 3, last
Okay, yeah.
season, right?
4 is the next one.
Yeah. Uh, then we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That's likely to still happen, but we now have this weird
It's for sure still
sideshow.
happening.
Yeah.
It was just leaked basically that Ben Affleck will be I guess reprising his role as Bruce Wayne, as is explained.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Um,
Batman's not in it. Just to be clear.
well, yeah. Well, I mean,
Whatever.
I think Keaton was supposed to be in it, right? So that's
Right.
another major thing with this announcement is that just take a break here for a second. Think about Michael Keaton's Batman.
I wanted to
We
see that for
basically
the
will
record.
never, we probably will never, if the Flash, we're not even there yet. But
Right.
if that is thrown in the delete button or
Yeah.
basket again,
Uh-huh.
um, Michael Keaton's Batman would have never seen the light of day. His return, it's never going to happen. Essentially, right now, not quite because the Flash hasn't been pulled,
Yeah. Well,
but it
not yet. Not
seems.
yet.
Yeah, but that's that bigger theatrical event, but it has so much baggage tied to it.
Well, so this is why it's so
So
weird. It's like we're gonna do Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom, and then but because we like Jason Momoa's Aquaman, and it made lots of
we like
money,
money.
and
It made $1 billion.
yeah, it made lots of
It's the
money, so we're gonna release
highest.
this one.
I think
Yeah,
it's the highest grossing DC EU movie.
right.
And
Even
then
though,
Wonder
hey, just
Woman.
there's all this Amber Heard stuff, and we're not really gonna deal with that. We're gonna cut her role a little bit, and we're gonna replace.
Yeah.
We're gonna put Ben Affleck in here now, and all this.
Yeah,
We're gonna
there's
do all these
rumors
weird
that it's going
changes.
to be pushed to December, I think, of 2023.
Yeah. It already has been pushed back to 2023, but it's like
Right.
if
I
they're
think it might
making
be
changes
further.
now, it's likely that it's going to be late 2023. So that's happening, which is in and of itself confusing because it's like if you really want to just cut the fucking ties, just do it, you know. But like, okay, make your money. Maybe that's the last. Maybe that's the last stand. Okay, sure, fair enough. But then you've got J.J. Abrams' Justice League Dark Universe. That's probably never happening. Let's just be honest. Those
Anything
Superman
JJ
reboots.
related, man. I mean, we talked about that years and years
Yes.
and years ago.
Yes.
Some deal that his production company made with Warner Brothers,
Yes.
and a Superman movie was attached to that,
Mm-hmm.
and
And then
it was an insane amount of money.
here's the thing: what I don't understand. I don't know if is it just people in Hollywood just patting each other on the back and shoving money in their pockets because, like,
Must be at this
because it's like,
point.
what do you mean nothing's made? You guys didn't do anything, and who's being paid? No one's. What is? Why? Where's this money going?
What's
No wonder you're in
going
debt.
on?
Right. So you got these. So then you also have the Superman reboots, right?
My
There was the Michael B.
goodness, Henry
Jordan
Cavill's
one
just
that
been
seemed
dragged
interesting.
around for years.
Yes. Yep.
Years. Next year, 2023, will be 10 years since Man of Steel.
Yeah. That it. I don't know. Meanwhile,
Unbelievable.
I mean, to be fair, over those 10 years, people's thoughts and feelings on Superman have ebbed and flowed. People's
Of
thoughts
course.
on how it should be approached and
Yeah.
what a modern Superman, like, those all things have come and gone, and that's challenging. I understand, but like, you're right, crazy. I was interested in that Michael B. Jordan idea, right? They were talking that up, and then that never that's probably never going to happen. You've got the Green Lantern
Yeah.
series. Green Lantern, a franchise that has dwelled in obscurity forever, came to the
2011 was
the
the
movie
Ryan
comes
Reynolds
out,
movie.
completely bombs.
Huge
One of
flop. $40 million opening weekend.
the
Still remember it. I definitely was panicking,
Here,
sweating,
yeah. Jeremy,
I'm like,
I
really?
will
Is
never,
this
I will
is this
never
over?
I will never forget being in the theater watching the trailer for Green Lantern, and then someone saying, I don't know, or someone like a couple rows forward being like, that looks fucking terrible. And, like,
Really?
super loud so everyone could hear. I'll
Yeah.
never forget that. But
I feel like there was a
anyway,
decent trailer somewhere in there. I think
maybe.
there was one where like they say the oath and like you see Sinestro like over like on this huge like green crystal like cliff with
Mm-hmm.
all the Green Lanterns like just
On Oa,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's like there was a lot of like cool things in it, but it just was not tied together nicely and
No.
did
But
not
so
end good.
They would. No, it did not. So this is just us repeating, I guess, all the pain we've experienced as DC fans over the last however many years. But then, okay, so they're gonna say, hey, we're gonna do a buddy cop show on HBO Max. Isn't that a great idea? Yeah, that is a great idea. Can't wait to see it. Nothing, not a peep about it has been,
Except
there's
I'm waiting for my costume call.
Right, exactly. Sure, you'll be waiting a long time.
Then there's at one point, it's like, it'll span different decades and be like,
they don't know what
focus
they're
on
doing.
different lanterns.
The show's not happening. Just assume the show's not happening, okay? That's my advice to people.
It
then
had
we've got
$100 million budget. It was like $10 million an episode.
Yeah.
Is what they're going for in HBO Max.
Yeah.
Premium content.
Here's the thing.
A resurgence of Green Lantern. Finally,
Warner Brothers
was taken away once more.
Warner Brothers Discovery does not even like HBO Max. They think it's a waste of time.
They want it to be a tab on the Discovery app.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Well, as long as you keep HBO like extremely premium, like I'm talking in terms of Sopranos,
sure,
Band of Brothers, like just
Game of Thrones,
you know what I mean, Euphoria.
Mm-hmm.
That tab, whoever owns that tab, all that huge.
But why is it in the? It just seems so petty.
Well, Discovery is reality first, right? Like you tune into that whole world for home stuff,
sure,
whatever, right?
It's the new TLC.
You have your entertainment tab, which is now bolstered immensely with the entire HBO and Warner Brothers.
Well, the thing catalog. Is, it just feels like such a. It feels so spiteful and like I said, petty. But mostly, it's like, hey, HBO is as a brand is extremely valuable. It people know what that means when you hear that.
It hasn't been tarnished yet because the content has been consistently good.
Well, yet is the key word, I guess.
Yeah,
there being. I'll continue down this list. On the other side of the table, you had stuff that actually was working, despite maybe being a little long in the tooth. Over on CW, right? You had the Arrowverse, as it's been dubbed, right? So 10 years after the Arrowverse made its debut, the shared universe looks to be rapidly winding down. Both Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman were canceled.
Those people don't want to do it anymore. Trust me. Grant Gustin's done, dude.
Maybe.
It's been 9 seasons.
I haven't even got to the Flash yet. So they're both Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow have been canceled after the most recent seasons. Unfortunately, both shows ended up with
to die.
Unresolved cliffhangers, teasing the debut of new DC characters, so that's not going to happen. Both cancellations appear to be the result of Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount's global decision to sell off CW and prioritize their streaming services.
When's the last time you gloated about CW?
Listen, I'm just saying.
Have you ever been like proud to like watch a CW show and like discuss it with peers?
That's a hilarious question.
You know what I
mean? We used to talk about.
We had it with Arrow. We had it with Arrow and the Flash in the very beginning, more so Arrow.
Yes.
But it just quickly turns to soap.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. It was like an easy comic book.
What are we doing here? Like,
there's so much comic book stuff now. Yeah, there's so much comic book stuff now. You don't need that. Yeah, you don't need it. Because it just ultimately turns to interpersonal drama. Though that being said, personal drama can be interesting only as a part of a larger.
Yeah, I mean, there are fans who really love these characters, and you have the ability, or you know what I mean, to tune on into TV these days, and that's being shown to you.
Sure.
Year after year after year.
Every single week, really, if you want.
Yeah. You have a Superman and Lois show. Go enjoy.
While it lasts. So the Flash is now the longest running Arrowverse show. Grant Gustin's Barry Allen is headed to his final lap in 2023. Showrunner Eric Wallace.
His final lap.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Eric Wallace confirmed earlier reports that the Flash will end with a shorter 13-episode season 9. It remains to be seen if the final season will attempt to address the loose ends from the other Arrowverse shows over the course of those 13 episodes. So that's winding down. And then Superman and Lois still happening, apparently, although its connections to the Arrowverse have been severed. Jeremy,
Superman.
please, you keep asking me this question, and I keep telling you.
Everyone on Twitter who's like a Snyder hater just constantly talks about Superman and Lois. So it's like,
well,
what is the show?
I don't know. It's about Superman and Lois. There was a Superman and Lois show back in the 90s and 80s or whatever.
Yeah, that show was great.
Yeah, this show's probably great too. I just don't watch it. But it had minor
Insane, man.
crossovers with Arrow and Supergirl, and those were interesting at the time. But that's now
Yeah.
that's just
Okay,
not
who cares
happening.
about these shows? It's
Right.
just whatever.
So either way,
the thing
that's
is, The Flash, Barbara Machete, one of the directors,
yeah.
was asked about it apparently, and she said, "All is good in Flashland."
All right,
To
sure,
which
whatever
someone
that
replied
means.
in the Twitter thread, "Except for the fact that your main lead is on the run." To which then someone else replied, "Isn't that the whole point of the movie?"
You're talking about the film, right? Not the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where that direct connection between, and people are like, if I had showed you these few pictures, guess which one of these movies would have been canceled, right? Of like a headline of Grant Gustin being on the run from authorities and this
Dude, no one would
absolutely
have voted that Ezra
right.
Miller is terrorizing Hawaii and choking people and
Right.
is kidnapping baby. Like,
But
I don't think
yeah,
any. To be fair, I don't know if any of this is actually true, because like it just seems like it's just on Twitter and like it's just like it is what it is. We're still gonna release the movie, but
right.
don't worry,
It's like,
we won't cast him again. We're still gonna make.
but don't
we still
worry,
want you to come see him.
we still need you to make money. Yeah, exactly. We still need to make money.
This is before we did all that. Like he's gonna be
Well,
running really fast.
just listen.
Trust
I don't know
us.
how much the Flash cost. Probably no more than 90 million. But
Oh man,
just shelve the
triple
movie.
that.
Just
Probably
shelve the
close
movie.
to 300 million.
We were talking about this when this news about Ezra Miller
Shelve
broke
the
for the first
movie.
time. Just put it away. It's done. You
Really?
can't like. I don't. How
You don't
can you
wanna see
just?
it.
How can you justify shelving Batwoman or sorry,
Batgirl.
Batgirl? They canceled Batwoman.
That's too crazy to
It's too much of
focus away
a
from.
uh,
It's the end card
the
basically.
cognitive dissonance, Jeremy, that it takes to try to justify in my brain that they could basically take a movie that's done, put it into a dark hole and bury it. And one that maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but it was a streaming movie. So it's like, even if it's bad, people will forget about it in a week. Who gives a shit? And then meanwhile, you're going to release this movie with an actual psychopath in the lead role, and you're gonna use that person to bank roll whatever. Like I don't. It's baffling. It's a bridge too far.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel the movie. I don't care.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it does get canceled. Again, the Batgirl one was leaked.
Yeah.
Apparently, WBD is holding some sort of thing on Thursday, which could
like an all hands meeting or something like that.
Yeah, which could be like the announcement of like essentially all the cuts they've made and what they're refocusing on. Maybe no new announcements, but just like
I think what they call that is
it'll
a
be what the
reorg.
refocus is.
Yeah.
And essentially with Batgirl, I bet there had to have been too much of a thorough line story of the multiverse type thing where they just really feel like they don't need that shown if they're not going that route. But if they're not going that route, then that means you can't go with the Flash being released, because that's all about that and multiple versions of every character. So you're canceling a version of a character. So that means the multiverse could be like completely out, which means the Flash is probably out.
It's too late. Marvel's did it already. They had all the runway to do multiverse first, and they didn't capitalize, and now it's too late. That's
Avengers
really the
Secret Wars.
It's called the Multiversal Saga or whatever, the Phase 4 or Phase 5.
No, the Secret Wars is 6 though. That's a different saga.
Well,
isn't
it? Well, yeah, I'm just talking about specifically multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what it's called, right? The Multiversal
I'm just saying,
Saga.
Like Secret Wars, like when you hear that, like doesn't like that cover, like Black Spider-Man, like doesn't it just like come up in your head like such an epic
Jeremy,
crossover?
Here's the thing. My understanding of Secret Wars is not as good as it should be. Like it was covered in Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, right?
See, that's the thing.
It's pretty cool.
I don't think that you as a fan, you're rewarded if you are, but if you're not, I think it's still going to be just as exciting.
Oh, listen, I'm still stoked. Don't get me wrong. Don't confuse that.
What's Kevin Feige going to do after that? Like, it's over. He did 6.
He did 6 phases.
He
did 6 phases, guys. Phases. We're talking. These guys.
Lasers.
I just want sharks with freaking laser beams on their head. Is that too much to ask people? Yeah. But like,
and Ben Affleck has said Kevin Feige, the greatest
producer of all time.
Of all time.
That's probably true. You're right. I mean, he's not wrong, and like
It's not about accolades. Well, it can be, or
he hasn't.
well,
Yeah,
essentially
there's no
awards.
Oscars on his
It's
shelf
not
there. I
about
mean,
that.
just
It's
for
about
VFX stuff, probably, but
consistency, your reign, what the public eye wants to see, what puts, butts in seats, what's driving, Twitter, like the conversations
right.
on there,
Yeah.
the actors who have come through, come out of
Well,
this
Jeremy,
MCU.
Bill Murray's going to be in the next Ant-Man movie. Like
Man, the Black
everyone.
Panther trailer was
Oh
incredible.
my god, so
I went
good.
through like when that was released, I watched it at least once per day when I got home. I was like, I gotta watch
Yeah.
that first.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
100%. That's how I felt about the Andor
That's a
trailer
real movie.
specifically, but yeah, like that's what a real movie looks like. I mean, the problem for Warner Brothers is twofold, right? Is that they have a direct competitor that is absolutely not just crushing them, but crushing the movie industry under their heel, right? So it's like this stark contrast. They're under this bright light.
And they know they sit on a gold mine, and Zaslav has
Yep.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
talked highly of
No
DC and its
excuses.
property,
Yep.
and it's been reported that he's baffled by the previous leadership and the decisions there and how it has and where's Superman and all this stuff. So to me, it's hold steady. This is a very unfortunate.
Hold.
It's just very
Hold.
unfortunate, but
Right.
you can turn on them right away, just like Snyder fans turn on Warner Brothers. By all means, go for it. You can make
Listen, I'm
Zaslav this 6-year-old white
sure.
man, and it's racist to cancel a
Right.
female black lead, but you know this first and foremost is a business decision, regardless of people's careers. I wouldn't put it past. Like Leslie Grace and the actors involved. I still think have a home
Well, they said specifically
there.
in that their official statement, because here's the thing: the news was leaked yesterday, and I was like, "This sounds crazy. I'm gonna wait till this
Mhm.
is confirmed." And
Yeah, a
then it
lot of
was
people didn't
confirmed.
believe it.
Yeah, and then they released the statement. They're like, "Yeah, we sorry about that, but hey, we really valued the work of the production team and the actors involved, and Leslie Grace, we want to work with you again in the future. Sure, maybe, sure,
Hmm.
but." That certainly doesn't pay them for the
I'm
work.
gonna sting. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna sting a lot for these people, and
yeah.
may make decisions that separate the two. Um, but yeah, I'm just of the mind of I want to see where this is all going. Like,
Well, there has to be some announcement, right? Like at some point,
yeah, that's why
this is all
people are
going to come
eager
to a
for
head,
Comic
and they're
Con.
going to be
People were
like,
very eager for
"Yeah,
Comic Con and wanted a lot of answers there, and we got none, like
they're
zero.
hold until after
And
Aquaman is really
but like
the."
for me, I've also been, I see parts of the fandom where like people there are scoopers or like people who know of
Mm-hmm.
people, and sometimes they get these stories like right before they happen, so they're not in like this camp of like, okay, this is going to happen, but like they see trends behind the scenes or decisions being made that favor other theories or other strategies on where they're going to go with their movies.
Well, it's because it's probably they haven't made any decisions yet. Here's the
Right.
thing, right? They have the opportunity to clean the slate, right, and say this is all
I
done.
think that's a possible thing though
Yeah,
with this leak, is that you either like you have to basically clean like
blow it
everything.
up.
It's just all ends.
This is what I
Shazam
said
2, that's
before.
it.
For the
Yeah,
record,
no,
let it.
we've
Yeah,
all said it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
or if you're gonna bring Ben Affleck back in Aquaman 2, if you're gonna hold your horses steady here for Wonder Woman 3, you're not
We haven't
announcing
even
anything
heard
with
anything about Wonder
Superman.
Woman 3 in over a
Right.
year.
Just that it was greenlit, that they're gonna
Yeah.
do it.
Yep.
You have no announcements of a Superman or anything with Henry Cavill.
Nope.
So at some point, those questions that everyone is talking about could come to fruition,
Well,
or
it's two
it's
things, yeah,
completely eliminated
and it's
and
start
we
fresh.
take a break,
Yeah.
and then they start fresh with whatever new strategy. And if it's the exact same as Marvel, then it'll still probably get backlash of what character they choose to do next, who they
Mm-hmm.
focus on next.
Yeah, and there's
Did that
no.
movie do
It's
good to
tough.
set it up? It's insane to think that you can replicate what Marvel is doing.
You
That's
can't.
what they
I
tried to do
agree.
with Shazam, Batgirl, all these movies, was create these characters who are in a shared universe and bounce between them. Create a Guardian section. It's all very similar Disney-ified Marvel family affair
Well, and so
heroes.
this goes back
And
to
there's
that.
nothing wrong with those types of movies, but
No.
this company wants to refocus what they have, or what that means is they're deleting, starting fresh, or they're refocusing down to what their best assets are. And
Yeah,
that could
the
be someone
Trinity.
like Henry Cavill
Yeah.
or Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, or Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is hotter than ever.
Well, well, yeah. I mean, but not for the reasons you'd think,
For
right?
many reasons.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's. I agree with you. I think it's one of those things. It's like this sucks. I agree, it sucks. I think because it sucks so much, I think you got to just they have to just own it and be like, "Yep, this is dumb. Everything that we've done for the last several years is dumb. We're gonna cancel this. We're gonna cancel the Flash. We're gonna make our last bang with Aquaman 2. Everything else is done. We'll see you again in 3 years, four
Everything else is
years.
done.
Yeah, with a new plan. And I that although would probably piss off a lot of people is probably their best strategy. Or like you said, like you refocus on the Trinity. But either way, it's going to be 3-4 years before we have clear understanding of what's happening. I think it's
Right.
or at least before we see those things, we might
I
actually
think it'd
get the
be a
plan revealed
year.
before
I think
that.
it'd be a year or two, because I think all the people who are working in Hollywood who could be a part of this, they have their projects lined up, and then there's discussion with all of that to kind of align it a year to maybe three down the road.
It's so funny though because you've got things like the Batman, like they're just gonna make the Batman 2
Yeah, but think
just
about that.
unaffected.
We're talking about this,
Yeah,
and like we're talking about Ben Affleck, and like we don't even like bat an eye that Robert Pattinson was out there as Batman. We definitely enjoyed
right.
that movie
Oh
and
yeah,
whatnot, and we
amazing
like
movie.
that world.
Yeah,
But it's not
100%.
like it's overpowering our desire for like a new DC universe.
No, it's not. It's not the launching pad
No.
for a new
But The
DC.
Rock
Right.
wants the Black Adam and DC League of Super Pets to be launching pads and build out those
the
universes
Don.
within the DC
Well,
universe.
sure, whatever. They can have their League of Super Pets. I mean, it's kids movies. That's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. But Black Adam. Um, I mean, I don't know, they released a new trailer. I don't know what to think about this movie. It might be good. I just like I don't, but I don't know. It's just at some point, Jeremy, they were making the same jokes that we were making like months ago about the balance of power,
Right.
and
The
because like
hierarchy.
I think I remember he said it like twice in one at that one DC fandom, and we're like, it's weird that he keeps using that same phrase over and over again, and then now he's
Well,
back
yeah, but
on stage
that was
again.
the first
Right.
first fandom, which was
Yeah.
pretty exciting,
Yeah.
right? It was probably the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely was.
No more fandoms, by the way. Probably,
And
likely gone.
and that's when they premiered like the animation kind of like of Black Adam like doing stuff or whatever. Like it was like a visual pre-rendered kind of anime or whatever, right? And he was like
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, and like he
Mm-hmm.
set the tone of it and like the JSA,
Yep. Looked
and
pretty
it just
cool.
seemed pretty badass
Yep.
for sure.
And now here we are, not
With
far
two
from
trailers,
release.
which we don't care about,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? He seems very like his acting does not seem good at all. Um,
It just seems
on
like
the
more of the
trailer,
Rock. It's just the Rock as
right?
Black Adam. It's like this was the concern from the beginning, right? That the
Yeah.
Rock isn't really going to bring anything new here. It's just a new franchise for him, and he's been the same in every movie since I don't know, since he appeared in Fast and Furious. Basically, he's been doing the same shtick for
Yeah, but there are those movies that kind of stick out, right? Like with Painting Gang, which was like was
yeah.
a
But that predates
cool
that.
take.
That was and that was before, and he was still getting his career in
Yeah.
acting
So you're
started.
saying
Yeah,
that like when you're at this point, you just want to find like a very easy job to do, and Black Adam's very easy to
I
do.
think I think that
It's all
he
CG action.
believes that he has an understanding of what people want from him, and
Yeah.
that it's a consistent output of characters that are all very similar. And
His answer to though when he was questioned about Superman, like not on in Hall H, but like behind the
right,
scenes, where he like doesn't speak for like 10 seconds. He's just like looking up
very
into the sky.
thoughtful. Yeah.
He
Hmm.
just does not know what to say. Like there's snipers just
Well,
ready to
I
go.
it's to me it
And then
seems like
he's like Henry Cavill is, we all know this, is the Superman of our generation.
which is
Like he pauses and the
like
guy
it's
gives
like
him like
this
a
is
fist
not a
bump.
that's not the question. Yeah, sorry, that's not what I asked you.
He's just
Um,
saying like he really hopes that's the case, but like clearly it's
yeah.
contracts and
Well,
these
here's
plans for what's going to be greenlit and
you know what, Jeremy, that reminded me of that clip because I watched that clip also. It reminded me of The Rock
I sent it to you.
from yeah, I know. This is why I said I watched it. So it reminded me of when The
He's like, we
Rock
drink
as
tequila
the
together
character.
when me and Henry see each other.
Yeah,
He's like, we
my
have good
tequila. I don't know
times.
if you exactly. This is the brand. I'm selling it. Please drink some more of it.
Dude, when the
Um,
Black Adam trailer came out, he said it got like a huge #1 world voted
yeah,
like
no, it
trailer
didn't.
score.
It did not. Okay, but let me finish my thought here, which is that
Okay.
when he answered that question and he took so long to answer it, it reminded me of when he was like literally in the WWE as The Rock, right, playing his
Okay.
character The Rock, and like thinking about how he'd answer a question. I was like waiting for him to do like a big sniff and then like do the
Yeah,
eyebrow
but at least
thing.
in WWF, he'd like look around and like do the eyebrow. Here, he's
Right.
actually just like has no idea how to answer this question.
Yeah,
Without
but
getting
then
into
the
huge
answer is
trouble.
so it's so political, and by that I mean
It's
like
like
it's
very
not an
like
answer to a
it's very
question.
for Henry though. Like it's like his final like push towards it.
Maybe it also could just be that like he's like he likes Henry Cavill. He hopes to do this stuff with him, but that's as far as it goes. There's nothing
No,
more to it than that.
it goes. I think it goes beyond. Like he literally answered a Twitter question
Right.
with
It's we'll do it
that,
if it's with him. If it's
and
it's like
then his manager, which is his former like partner, who he had
mm-hmm.
his first kid with.
Yeah.
She's the same manager, or she manages Henry Cavill as well. So their negotiation tactics, their planning, their pitch is probably very good with I think it's Danny Garcia um, as their manager.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that and she teased Henry Cavill and Shazam, who she produced with The Rock, and
Well,
look how that ended up. They still it was so crazy during the Toby Emmerich reign
right.
that
They
they
got a body
cut
double.
his little head off, and it's funny because if you think in Andy Samberg,
Yep.
right, the director is kind of his humor. It's super funny for sure.
Well, it is. It
But
100%
it's
is
also
funny.
like it's just like okay, like it's like at this point is because then we get the Superman like shadowy figure in Peacemaker
Peacemaker.
season 1.
Yeah. Superman, you dickhead, or whatever he says. Yeah. Uh. So here's the other two items that they list on this list, which is Blue Beetle. Almost, it's in the filming now. I would be shocked if that movie comes out. I would like to see it, but I don't. It's just in the same exact vein as Batgirl, so it seems unlikely. And then the last thing that they mention here, which I didn't even consider, which now it gives me chills to think about, which is that it raises questions about the animated DC Universe movies and what they're planning on doing with that. And
Yeah, but I
it
think those are like proven to be profitable because it's more of like a Blu-ray. It's like a
cost
physical.
effective, they say
It's
here.
like a
Cost effective
physical,
way of
yeah.
bolstering DC's content on HBO Max.
Because like they make money, they make pretty good bank off of the physical
Yeah.
sales. I feel
I
like.
mean, you single-handedly probably keep them
Yes.
afloat. Yeah. Um we have to probably revisit now that there's a bunch of new ones, our list of the best DC animated movies.
Right.
But I would be heartbroken if those got canned, if that that Warner Brothers animation studio got shut down or whatever, because I haven't seen the new Green Lantern animated movie, though I've heard not great things. I'm gonna watch it anyway, but it's please don't, Warner Brothers, if you're listening, please don't please just save those ones at least. It'll keep us alive while you're figuring out what you're doing through live action stuff. Okay. Hey, is that enough, Warner Brothers? Is there more on Warner Brothers that we should talk about?
I mean, that's good.
That's
I think
enough.
good
That's enough.
It's enough of that.
We've punished enough. We've punished people enough. Okay, so here's another story, a business decision story. MGM loses the rights to the Tomb Raider franchise, and Alicia Vikander is out as Lara Croft. According to the Wrap, the rights of the Tomb Raider film franchise have lapsed after MGM failed to greenlight a Tomb Raider sequel in time, and that means the franchise is now up for grabs. MGM had until May this year to put a Tomb Raider sequel into production, but has now lost the rights after failing to do so. This has sparked building a bidding war in Hollywood for with a host of studios now putting in bids for the popular video game franchise. Unfortunate. I like Alicia Vikander. That first movie, although not great, pretty fun. More adventure movies would be nice. So unfortunate there. Just one of those another one of those like rights things, business decision things where it's like, oh, we didn't make another Blade movie, so it goes back to Marvel. Just it's one of those. We got a teaser for John Wick 4. Pretty cool, where he's like blocking bullets with a sword. I don't know how that works exactly, but it basically looks like he's a Jedi. So I'm stoked for that. Jeremy, you sent me that poster for John Wick 4, and my reaction was like, it looks like the same, but like that
it could have been a poster for any of the movies. I guess
it could have been a poster for any of them. In some sense it's a joke, but in other senses it's like all three of those movies are great. So sure, more please. That's not a problem. Let's talk about Andor. So we got a new trailer. We'll talk about that in a second. But along with the trailer came two important announcements. The first being that Andor has a new release date. The series will now premiere on September 21st instead of its original premiere date of August 31st.
What a great premiere date.
Well, the thinking is that it's being pushed out of the way of Lord of the Rings and the new Game of Thrones show, and that they want kind of have their own space. That makes sense to me. The first season I think is 10 episodes.
And it's one per week?
Sorry, it's more than that. So the second announcement is that instead of 2-episode premiere that was originally announced, the series will premiere with 3 episodes in one day. This likely means the remaining 9 episodes, so that's a 12-episode first season, would air week to week after that. So the finale sometime in November of 2022. 3 episodes to start for a show like Andor is exciting to me because, and the shift in dates is not a big deal to me. 1 month for this show, especially after this new trailer, it's like, okay, that like the get the hype train rolling.
When is it supposed to premiere?
August 31st, end of this month.
Okay.
So it's about a month, 3 weeks.
Yeah, I like how it pushes it for us into the colder part of the year almost.
Yes, right. It put me in front of the TV. Not that that's nothing stopped me from being in front of the TV this whole time. But 3 episodes. So I think about a couple things. I think about the premiere to Obi-Wan, how freaking stoked I was, how excited we were coming out of that first 2-episode premiere.
A letdown maybe
in the middle, the sag in the middle, and then the excitement at the end again. And then I think about the Bad Batch, and it premiered. Its first episode's 90 minutes long. It's basically like a short movie, and it's awesome. And same thing with Obi-Wan. It was like a short movie to start. 3 episodes, even more so, depending on the length of them. So we kind of come in maybe around 90 minutes, 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer, potentially. That is essentially a full-on Rogue One sequel movie to start a Rogue One, or a prequel movie to start a whole prequel series that's going to go over 2 years. So that's awesome to me. I think that just from a pure like sit down and watch Star Wars for a couple hours perspective, that's awesome. And then circling back to the trailer, that trailer is the best looking Star Wars stuff I've seen since The Last Jedi. I haven't seen Star Wars look as good as I saw it look on screen on that trailer as I have since The Last Jedi. And that includes The Mandalorian, which is great. I have really no qualms about that show, not really. It includes Obi-Wan, it includes really everything, including The Last Jedi. What's the episode 9? Whatever, Rise of Skywalker. We don't talk about that movie. And Solo. So to me, they said out loud. So at the TCAs today, they talked about how they've chosen to not use the volume at all. This is no volume being used. It's all shot on set, on location. They talked about having to climb a mountain for hours just to get 1 or 2 shots that they wanted, right? And for me, it's absolutely shows on the screen. I think it's stunning to look at. Like the artistry at work from the photography standpoint is freaking cool. It calls back to Rogue One, right? The shot of the Star Destroyer going overhead and being in low orbit like that. Really cool. some of these shots of Mon Mothma and in the Senate. Jeremy, the Senate is back. Are you excited? Right? Like we joke about how episode 1 is all space politics and how, as kids that's not that exciting, but this is
As
space politics for adults. Yes, I'm excited. So, it was sold as a spy thriller. It looks like a spy thriller, like it just like the way that people, just the faces of the actors on screen, like the Imperial officers that they've cast, brilliant casting that they've done here. They got a guy from Game of Thrones. They have they have these ISB officers, which is always really cool. This security bureau that's kind of they're the ones who like investigate internally, right? They're like investigating Imperial officers.
They're
So
the
they're
ones
like
who are drinking together or whatever.
right, exactly, yeah. So the ones who wear white, right? They're the scariest
Well,
of
that's
the
what
Imperials.
this is. It's like it's a new perspective in the Star Wars universe
Yes,
that is just so nitty gritty, like so, and then so attached to the whole like boots on the ground rebellion and the
yes.
beginnings of that, and the actual answers essentially to
To
what
where the rebels came
yeah,
from. Yeah.
everything the rebels were doing, literally everything
Mm-hmm.
leading up to Rogue One, at least,
Well,
right? Or I
Rogue One,
guess
yeah.
just before, because it's 5 years before
They
that.
said that the first season covers his 1 year of time.
Yeah.
There's
So
and
they're
then
leaving a bunch more years of politics and espionage
mm-hmm.
and missions and just all these thrills on this in this low level rebellion, finally living out that fantasy, and
Yeah,
then you get to see all these officers in the Empire and stuff like in between their like,
their board
well, you get to
meetings.
see them doing their tasks and everything, but like
Yeah,
this the in between conversations and like what that power and whatnot like does to them and how they talk
yeah.
and like
The
you
state
get
of
to be a
fear.
fly, you basically get to be
Mm-hmm.
a fly on the wall in all these uh, corners of the Star Wars universe that you never thought you'd ever be able to
Well,
be on.
it makes me think of you, Jeremy. Think of that scene from Episode 4 where Vader walks into that meeting, and he talks about how, um, your lack of faith is disturbing, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
And that's just like a board meeting with all these Imperial officers, right? And they're talking about how the power of the Death Star is unmatched, and all that kind of stuff. That's really, it's just like, what if we just had a show where that conversation was happening in
Hmm.
back channels, and people are backstabbing each other, physically and metaphorically. And meanwhile, you have they kind of set the scene so perfectly of this kind of empire that's so obsessed with themselves that they can't see the cracks in their armor, and then those cracks being filled with the likes of Mon Mothma. She has that great line in the trailer where she's saying, like, if they think of me as a nuisance, they won't recognize of what I'm actually doing, which is building a rebellion. And like, we also know that we're going to get some characters from Star Wars Rebels appearing, and we're going to get, it's really cool. I remember we all listen. We all joked about how funny. Oh yeah, we're all stoked about the Andor show, right? But we were all kind of feeling like, well, what if
Well,
it might be good, right?
yeah, well, it began that way, and I think I probably shared that sentiment because I wasn't that huge on Rogue One and Diego Luna. Like, I'm like, okay,
Right.
like I guess they want to make a name out of him, and like they're creating this character for him.
Sure.
But then as time went on, like we saw like the sets they were making, and then like there was rumors like Obi-Wan was going to share the set, and then like
Mm-hmm.
they just been filming this thing forever, and then they talk about the espionage, and then yeah, like it's so intoxicating thinking about Star Wars and like just the rebels and what they're actually doing behind the scenes,
100%.
like
Yeah.
these powerless kind of individuals compared to the Jedi
Yeah, we're
and
so
the
used to the
Sith.
Jedi and their,
And it's
oh,
yeah,
just use your force
it's
powers. Yeah.
it's yeah, it's like the Batman level, the human level of like all these crazy people around him, you know.
Right. And it's like
Um,
it's just I love being just like, with being with Spider-Man and Daredevil, right? Like being on the street level, right?
mhm.
I love being on street level in Star Wars. It's so fascinating when you're down, like in Episode 2 when they go down to the lower levels of Coruscant. And by the way, we're
Mhm.
going back to Coruscant for the first time since the prequels, which feels like crazy talk that they never once appeared in the sequel movies at all. Talk about lack of planning, but whatever. So we're going back to Coruscant, which in and of itself, you could create a whole saga around just that one planet, and you would never run out of stories to tell. So I'm super excited about this show. I can't wait to cover it on Small Screen Star Wars. There's just gonna be like, the thing is, like, if it's anything like Rogue One, in the fact that like kind of the new little nuances that they bring, like the new ship designs and like the what it implies for Imperial life and how the rebels, this is what led to this, which led to the Death Star or whatever. That kind of stuff is so much fun to break down.
It's gonna be, right, because we've fought all the wars in like the movies and the video games, and like we know of all them. But this is like the in between and like how we get there and like why it's happening. If you want to invest into Star Wars that way, and obviously there's lots of fans that would like to.
Well, and also I will mention, just because I have to, I'm legally obligated, live action clones. There's going to be more live action clones in this.
You're the clone
guy? I'm a big clone guy, and the thing is, like, I love the clones as characters. It's fascinating seeing the clones after Order 66 and how they're used and how they're treated, which is really what Bad Batch is all about, to some degree, which makes that show super exciting. I can't wait for that second season. But the original clones were all CG. There was no original clone armor. That's changed now. We saw Tamora Morrison in physical clone armor in Obi-Wan, in that kind of fun little cameo. And then we've seen a couple of those flashbacks to to Order 66. And now we've got like a whole bunch of clone troopers, either combined CG, live action. I just think it's super cool. They look cool. I'm in front of me right now. I'll put it up on screen. I've got I just bought a new Black Series figure, which is essentially just the third generation clone armor, but in dark gray, which is from the Bad Batch. It's the Elite Squad, which was like these group of soldiers that they recruited shortly after Order 66 to prove that recruited soldiers could work just as well or better than clones. Anyway, so they got their own like black, dark gray clone armor. It's pretty cool. So it's been on my desk for like a week, and I have it in a really cool pose, and I look at it on a regular basis. So that's Andor. Please be excited for that. Okay, let's talk about. You know what we're not gonna do? We're not gonna talk about the Emmy nominations because they're already old, and we're just gonna talk about them.
Senses. We're
gonna talk about them when they actually happen and the awards are handed out. Okay. Just know that shows like Succession, Ted Lasso, Hacks, they're all getting a lot of noms. Only Murders in the Building had 17. It's another great show. So yeah, there's Yellow Jackets, Squid Game. There's a lot of love to the good stuff. The shows that are actually good are getting nominated here, which is nice. So we'll talk about that more when those actually happen, which is later this year. So, and by the way, Rick and Morty season 6 coming September 4th. San Diego Comic-Con, Jeremy. Let's talk about Marvel. We talked about DC and its lackluster appearance at the show. We don't need to retread that. But what we can do is we can talk about everything that Marvel announced at Comic-Con, and there was
too much, really.
It is almost too much, like, to cover in this one episode because we've already spent so much time on DC. But we'll kind of touch on the stuff that's exciting, and then as more news about these things comes out, or we get trailers or teasers and that kind of stuff, we can kind of dive into things a little bit more in depth. But we'll start with Phase 6 is confirmed. We'll begin with Fantastic Four, end with Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars. We talked about this a little bit already, but I am so stoked to see more Jonathan Majors as Kang. Jeremy, I would just recommend, like, if you're not going to watch Loki, which I think you should, but if you're not, just go watch the finale or watch that one scene. I think
I'll probably have to watch Loki before the Kang Dynasty, essentially.
Yeah, probably.
Like, that's like, I don't like, I'm at the point where like I want to just kind of like pick and choose Marvel like projects.
We're at that
point.
They
make sense.
Yeah.
Because before I was just like, it's like everything.
But now you can't. There's too much.
Yeah.
Right? To be fair, I have been watching everything.
Right.
Essentially, but it is catching up to the point where it is getting a bit much. Like I'm sure I'll miss something at some point
So
sooner than later.
they brought him out for in Hall H,
Really?
like with a
Okay, I
bunch of
didn't know
other
that.
actors.
I did not know
I don't
that.
know who else they brought out, but like yeah, it was crazy. He like came out and just kept wooing a bunch. Like you could tell he was really feeling the Comic Con energy, and like you could just tell that he knows so much of where the MCU is going, and like the next
Well,
Thanos,
he's the next
Josh
Thanos,
Brolin
right?
essentially,
Yeah.
and you could just tell that he knows and is excited to kind of share that.
Well,
Um,
what I love is just like with Josh Brolin, where you picked a really great actor to
yeah,
play this.
he brought out the gauntlet at Comic Con too, I think, which was like a
Yeah,
pretty iconic moment. Yeah, the
100%.
oversized
But
one that he put on.
I just think about like how, uh, as a giant purple character, it can be inherently silly if you don't treat it with some level of respect, I guess. And he brought this level of gravitas to the character that was like, along with the amazing CG work that they did and mocapping. But um, Jonathan Majors, another absolutely killer actor. Like, just
Oh
he
man,
can
yeah.
bring it, and that's what's
Have
exciting
you seen
about
the
it.
behind the scenes pictures of Creed 3?
He's jacked.
Have you seen it?
I think so. It depends which one you're looking at. Creed. By the way, delayed Creed 3.
Yeah, I feel like we've mentioned
Also,
this before too, but yeah.
Creed 3, a movie I want to see for sure. Come also with a little bit of baggage. This is just the episode of behind the scenes baggage. But Sylvester Stallone wants to own a piece of the franchise that he started, and the producer that owns it is apparently a real dick, and refuses to give up even a piece of it to Sylvester Stallone and his family. So he's pissed about that. He's kind of been in the news. Are you talking about this photo of him shirtless, Jeremy?
Yeah, he's like on the beach. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
insane.
absolutely
His
jacked.
shape. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. So anywho,
Yeah.
back to
Well, we
Marvel
don't
for a
Marvel,
second.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even want, like, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, Secret Wars Phase 6 kicks off with Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four is not going to be an origin
They
story.
just brushed by
Great.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, which is
Like they
weird to
didn't
me.
really focus, which is a huge question in a lot of people's minds because of the Reed Richards who showed up in
Oh yeah, yeah,
Doctor
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Strange.
yeah. The Office guy.
And then there seems to be some backpedaling and potential if Krasinski will continue the role.
Well, here's the thing. I don't understand. Like, where's that coming from? Is that coming internally? Like, they didn't like his performance, or it's because people didn't like his performance, or
we again we can only measure things through Twitter, which is the only place where people go on the internet if they want to complain. So
that's right.
you go
That's
on there,
right.
and then all of a sudden
And
people are
Reddit.
just complaining about Reed Richards and his first kind of appearance, albeit a multiverse version of
Yeah,
him.
but
Still, he's
why?
like a little
Is it?
more. Well, they so what I see is that they felt like his performance was flat or something. It was like the term that kept being used, like the buzzword or whatever. Like he wasn't acting as Reed Richards, and like, but then you have people being like, what are you talking about? Like it was only it was
He
like
had like
one little
he had like 10
montage
lines of
thing,
dialogue
and then got
the whole
killed.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's that, I guess that does put Marvel in a tough place, because it's like they already brought him in. They have an out by the fact that is a multiverse version, so they can get away with it if they want to. But they also feel like if he's not going to be able to, like, essentially carry a franchise like Fantastic Four, which they obviously have a lot of respect for, then maybe we do need to make a
Kevin
casting
Feige always
change.
said, Marvel's first family.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna be crazy too. Like who they announce as cat, like the
Well, there's so many,
casting.
exactly, like who's gonna be the Thing, and who's gonna be Invisible Woman, and like all that stuff is who's gonna be Doctor Doom, Jeremy. Doctor Doom is coming to the MCU. How sick is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
and like, again, they're not really
Wars,
talking
right?
about it. Well, I guess the whole point I'm making is that, like,
is to attach Fantastic Four in the beginning all the
yes,
way to the end
yes,
and make it
and
the big bad.
it's not a not a not an origin story, is what they said, and which is good, because I think we've seen it
Jump right
enough.
into it.
We've seen it enough. We know cosmic rays. It's not that complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Just do a montage in the beginning, like
or just
Like
reference it. Everyone
yeah.
understands who the Fantastic Four are: stretchy guy, invisible lady who makes shields, a big strong rock dude, and a guy who turns on fire. That's all people need to know. They don't need to know how it happened. And if they really need to know, go watch that movie from like 2007 or whatever.
Well, there's two of them.
Yeah, well, the first one. Don't watch the second one.
The second one's not bad.
It's okay, but I mean, it's like what
Silver Surfer.
if you really want to know their origin story, it's like it's not hard to find. It's like I don't know if it's as well known as Batman's origin story, but it's
if you're going with Krasinski, I remember we talked about when I first saw it. I thought it was amazing. Like I tapped into that whole thing that Feige was saying, where he's like, everyone, it was a dream. It was like the dream casting, right? You saw it everywhere on social media.
Fan casted, yeah.
Cast his wife, a dream. And Kevin Feige said, "Wouldn't it be fun if we turned that dream into a nightmare?" And that's what happens in Doctor Strange, which is why I really liked that movie and enjoyed it, and I got it. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of people thought it wasn't that good. So, like you said, he can kind of play with that, I guess, and continue it or do someone else. But
well, this is kind of one of those scenarios where
stick to it, because like Krasinski, the whole story with him was that he was up for the role of Captain America and didn't get it.
Right.
So now this is like a cool story that he gets this pretty prolific character who's essentially the next Tony Stark.
I want them to do a Chris Evans as the Human Torch fun little crossover thing, multiversal crossover thing. Is that like, do you think that'll happen? I feel like
whatever.
You don't think so?
Sure.
I don't know. Okay.
I hope it happens for you. Like, it doesn't really do anything for me.
All right, fair enough. The other thing that people said was like conspicuous by its absence was any talk of X-Men or when the mutants are going to be coming into the MCU. Now, someone asked Feige off stage at some point about like, hey, like, we've got this mapped out for that. How long is the next couple of phases? It's how many years out?
Until 26, right? Something like that.
Something like that. And so they're like, are we gonna have to wait another decade for the X-Men? And he was like, I don't want to wait that long. He's like, we're not gonna wait that long. So there is also a bunch of
there was no mention of Shang-Chi 2.
Yeah, no sequel for Shang-Chi, which we know is coming. Come on,
we know is coming. Yeah.
So it's like
Blade was glossed over, even though that like was the big ending to one of the last.
Well,
or whatever.
You think? Oh yeah. Well, also was teased again in the tells that what was the movie that everyone hates that which Marvel movie that no one liked most recently it came out that with Eternals, thank you. Yeah, I can't remember.
Blade was teased in that one.
Yeah, yes, he is teased at the end of that. His voice, you can hear his voice off screen, and then you saw and then you see and then you see
man, it was the guy from One Direction that was the tease.
The Jon Snow.
It was the Star Fox.
No, dude, Jon Snow. The guy who plays Jon Snow. He's Black Knight or whatever I think it's called, right? And so he has a sword, and then anyway,
he has a sword.
Yeah, he has a sword. It's called the Soul something.
And Blade was involved with this.
Again, off screen, Jeremy. His voice. You just hear his voice.
You're 100% sure.
100% sure. Yes.
Okay.
100%.
We'll have to revisit that, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, we also got Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, first trailer for this, and you mentioned, Jeremy, this looks like an incredible movie. I don't understand.
Did you see when the actors came out? Like I was able to see some sort of YouTube stream of it.
No,
crazy.
I haven't seen that.
Ryan Coogler with all the actors came out. And I guess Ryan Coogler mentioned like a little bit about Chadwick Boseman and like how he could like feel his presence and like how he really wants to like do right by him. Even the actor who plays M'Baku, I forget his name.
Yeah.
But when he came out, it was so sick. He like did his line from like the movie, like his military like yell.
Yeah.
I was like, stay far. Like he said it like 10 times in a row. I was like, if I was in that audience, I'd be so hyped.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just listening to you saying it, and it's not even that good.
But I was watching the stream, and it felt like nobody was really cheering. I'm like, what do you got? Like, come on, people. Or maybe it was just
guy
like
is yelling. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be just the mix. They announced the release date, November 11th this year. Jeremy,
great release date.
11/11/22. What a
And then the song choices,
yes.
the his mother, like how she's kind of at the forefront, like expressing
Yes, the grief.
the grief, and like it's extended to her entire family. And then
Mhm.
obviously we're teased that a female Black Panther suit, I guess, towards the end there.
Yeah, what seems like it,
They
right?
even
What
released a poster, I think, where it's like a silhouette
yeah.
of like the head, and it's very like feminine
It's
shaped.
likely he hit what was his sister, right?
Yeah,
Um
Shuri in the comics for
yeah,
sure, takes on the mantle. Um, I think it'd be cool if they chose someone else, but I don't know. I think that, I don't know. There's a lot of candidates who could don that suit that
right.
would be really cool, no matter who it was. Honestly,
Including even the villain that from last movie who is not
Killmonger,
dead. Yeah, Killmonger
yeah,
could come back, right?
Michael
Like
B. Jordan.
yeah, right? I mean there's a lot of options. I am very excited. Like watching that trailer, this is the same feeling I had watching the Andor trailer, which was like this movie looks better than every single MCU thing I have seen in
Yeah,
the last 5 years, right? Like, or whatever it's
yeah,
been since the last event. Like, just again, just from the pure photography standpoint, like it just looks like it has someone making this movie who kind of understands cinematic movie language. They're using the right lenses, the right color palettes, like everything about
yeah.
it
I mean, in
looks
that movie, the
better,
first one was like
sharper.
a cultural kind of impact, right?
Yeah,
Like,
over $1 billion.
yeah.
Yeah.
First, like, black male lead superhero movie.
And make great
Full
movie. Absolutely great
cast.
movie.
Yeah,
Right?
great actors, all across the board.
Yeah.
And then just a devastating, tragic story of its star actor dying.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's such a
and
tragic way. Oh,
and then continuing this movie with this world of Wakanda that everyone grew so fond of, and its
right.
people, and relating it to their own communities. It's just so unfortunate that he's not there to continue it, but the turmoil and where it all leads to is just so fascinating and exciting to see, who dons that mantle, that which they all know clearly the man before was so, reveled or whatever, like,
Right. I mean, he was just like he's the perfectly cast.
yeah.
This will be great. We've got decades of him as Black Panther, and
Mhm.
then it was all just kind of cut short so
Mhm.
unceremoniously, and it's tragic. I mean, the other kind of exciting and by the way, just to touch on the tragic element, you mentioned it already, but it's just clear that this movie is and it's clear hearing from the actors and the director Ryan Coogler and even leading up to this announcement, even before this announcement, that like they're kind of making this movie as like an exploration of their grief of having
Yeah.
lost
It's the
him,
number
and
one priority,
yeah.
essentially, rather than pushing the MCU forward,
So here's the
essentially,
thing:
even
I
though
feel
the
like this movie
characters
is
will.
gonna make me cry so
Yeah.
many
Well,
times.
people have said they've been crying through the trailer.
Yeah,
Like I said, I was drawn to watch it like every day, essentially,
it's I
after it first
yeah,
dropped.
it looks like a movie that's been made with care and thought and heart, and I think that's going to come through, and it's going to make a lot of money, and I'm excited to see it. We also found out that we're getting Namor is in the movie. We're getting
Mhm.
our first look at the Submariner,
Yeah.
uh, Tenoch Huerta. I think I'm saying that right. So that's pretty cool. A character that's been kind of waiting in the wings for a while. Okay, so we also got the fourth Captain America film, Captain America: New World Order, coming in
Mm,
2024.
very
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so this movie's obviously going to pick up from the events following Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a show that unfortunately sucks, but has some good moments.
There
And
was some drama online with the announcement of this movie before Comic-Con, and
really,
how some outlets kind of phrased who would be starring in the lead role. Uh, Basically making it seem that it was like Falcon would be Captain America, not that like Anthony Mackie is Captain America type
right, they're
thing.
not giving the credit to the actor.
Right. And like to
Yeah,
the point where Chris Evans like even tweeted at those article, or like the one that did it, like stating that he is Captain America,
right. Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's one of those weird ones.
which
It's
is
like,
kind of
well,
what
some
the
people might
show
not
went
have.
over, right? was
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like the
exactly
point of
what.
the show essentially.
It's funny because it's like it's a show that maybe not as many people have seen as the big Marvel movies,
It's not our
right?
favorite either. Like we
It's
can
not
be
our
honest about
favorite. It
that
it
for
has
sure.
real problems. They just didn't know what they were doing yet on television, and
But it
they've
for
learned
sure
a lot since
tackled
then.
a lot of like those issues and
Well,
like
it introduces
change.
Falcon as Captain America. That final like the title of the
Yeah.
show, Falcon and Winter Soldier, changes to to Captain America and Winter Soldier at the end, and it's like that's really cool.
Hmm.
I love that moment when that happened. But there's some really important elements of that show that I think a lot of people won't have had the opportunity to see, and it does explore this idea of what a black Captain America means and like how do you handle that. And then this
Hmm.
movie I think is going to retread some of that ground. The film will apparently explore what makes somebody Captain America, and it'll dive into Sam Wilson's underdog status as the new Cap, right? So I think that's the recipe for a really interesting movie. How they handle it, I've loved the Captain America movies. Like they're some of the best stuff in the MCU, and it's like, okay, what is this new? What is the new? How does this all play out? How does Bucky fit into this? Because they have their like little bromance that they have, and I love that. I can't wait for more of it. I'm super stoked for that, and I'm glad he's getting like his full big movie, and he's gonna. I just wish more people had seen that show just so that they could prep themselves for this, and maybe who knows, maybe they'll do some sort of like supercut re-release, so people get kind of like digest that. She-Hulk and they announced that She-Hulk and Black Panther will conclude Marvel's Phase 4. They talk about how Phase 4 was intended to be a bunch of standalone stories, kind of like a deep breath, an exhale after the Infinity Saga, right? And I think largely, if you look back at it, that's kind of what it feels like. It's a little bit lighter fare. Nothing is nearly as serious. And no Avengers movie, obviously, and now we're kind of ramping back up into what is, essentially much more dramatic stakes, right? Does that help, Jeremy? In your opinion, does that help reframe what is a phase that you didn't really grab you, Phase 4?
What does, sorry?
Well, just this reframing of it as being like it was intended to be a bunch of kind of standalone movies and a bunch of it was kind of
Oh
intended
no,
to be a
not
little
at
bit
all.
lighter fare. Okay,
No.
no, all right. So just Phase 4 just does nothing for you, and you're just ready for Phase 5 and 6.
Yeah, I mean Doctor Strange was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is Spider-Man technically Phase 4? Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or is
that
that?
was cool too.
Yeah.
That was obviously
Yeah.
huge multiverse stuff,
Yeah.
but mostly nostalgia.
Yeah. So I mean, it had its ups and downs. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's kind of just like, you could miss some of these movies. It's not a big deal, you know.
Except for
So
those two. Like we definitely gave a lot of credit to those two,
yeah,
like
and
specifically
deservedly
Spider-Man.
so. Deservedly
Yeah.
so. I really like Thor as well, though it's not as good as Ragnarok. But so like I said, She-Hulk and Black Panther will conclude Phase 4. Phase 5 is revealed as a bunch of things. We'll have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah, that's the
And
cast that they brought out. That's why
yeah,
um what's his name came out
Bill
as
Murray.
Kang. No. Well, I guess he did come out. Did he come out for that one?
I don't think so. I
No.
don't. I don't. I would have to imagine that
Paul
he's.
Rudd for sure.
Yeah, Paul Rudd. By the way, I think like everyone knows Paul Rudd's great. There's this idea that Paul Rudd's character as Ant-Man has like a podcast in the MCU, like in the world that
Mhm.
that's why everyone knows about what happened at like the events that no one should have seen, like at the end of Avengers and stuff like that. I like that idea for him. I'm happy for him for that. I think that works. They also said, by the way, that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the director, said that it's taking a hard left turn from what we've experienced in the past. I know
Well,
that
I
these
mean,
movies
the
have not
second
done
one
much for you.
sucks, right? So I'd hope
It's
they
just
take a
very
turn.
forgettable. Yeah. So anyway, Peyton Reed, he's saying, and at the same time, James Gunn saying that Guardians 3 will be quote unquote more mature. So
Yeah, well, I think I saw a couple of things he said about how he always envisioned like these character arcs and kind of flowed up and down here and there, but he wants to really pay respect to these characters, and I guess it's this cast of Guardians is ending
Mm-hmm.
as we know it. That doesn't mean that they all die.
Yeah.
So I think to me that sounds like it'll be satisfying and have some weight and conclusion to it, and not we'll see you again or whatever. You know what I mean? Even though
Yeah.
that can probably still be around in there, because like obviously we'll talk about Secret Wars later, but obviously that's going to be the big cameo kind of everyone's back again
Right.
type thing.
Well, it's kind of there is something to be said about having the fun of having James Gunn back in the Marvel universe and kind of just talking about how he wants to do stuff, and you know, it's fun to compare and contrast how he talks about what he's doing with DC and Peacemaker and all that kind of stuff, because it really feels like he really loves making Peacemaker. So, okay, so that includes Phase 5 includes Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Secret Invasion, which is a Disney Plus series, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Echo, which is also a Disney Plus series, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, Blade, Ironheart, which is a Disney Plus series, Agatha, Coven of Chaos, which that one's a bit surprising, and then
Is it?
Daredevil.
She was such a huge standout in WandaVision, and they like announced like so soon that she was
Yes.
gonna get her own show.
Yeah,
They just
she was
changed their
great. I just
subtitle
don't
to it,
know
I
if
think.
she needs her own show. That's the one. Is it a sequel to? If it's kind of played off as like a direct sequel to WandaVision, that'll be interesting. But I don't know if she
I
can.
think it's just fun to have more
Yeah,
like witchcraft spell
sure, sure.
type stuff with the purple mist, and
That's
I think
right.
that's all cool like
Right.
to have.
Well, it's nice to like it opens the door because then you can tie it in with Blade and all of the kind
It
of the darker
also,
stuff. Yeah.
just to reflect back on DC and their potential plans, they had a Zatanna film
Oh
in the
yeah.
mix with like writers and everything, and that's not happening anymore. And that it's kind of like similar to Agatha in some
Yeah,
respects.
it's a female supernatural character, right?
Hmm.
Essentially a witch. So is that then the really exciting one, Daredevil Born Again, which
It's gonna be
the,
18
that
episodes.
is
It's
so
gonna be 18
insane.
episodes. So they just super confidently just say it's gonna be super long after
Yeah.
they know the
Yes.
conversation forever has been it can't be too short and it can't be too long. It's gotta be just right. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, too fucking bad. Here's 18 episodes to sink your teeth in. Oh, and by the way, Vincent D'Onofrio is back and Charlie Cox is back.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Everyone's
Because
happy.
who else are gonna get to play Kingpin?
Well, they already have him. He already reappeared in the series in the
Yeah,
MCU
I'm just saying,
as
like,
Kingpin
who
in the Hawk.
else would be better than him? And it's crazy because when they made Spider-Man with Sony, like
Mm-hmm.
they're like, who do you recast as Doc Ock? Like he's like
Right.
Alfred
It's like
Molina is Doc
he's Doc
Ock.
Ock. There's no other answer, right?
So
Yeah.
then like, that's how that movie came to be. It's like let's just get all these guys back and they
Mm-hmm.
can be those characters.
Yeah.
So
And so I don't. There's some people concerned, like, oh, it's not going to be rated R. It's not going to be the version of Daredevil that was on Netflix. And here's me telling people who are saying that, no, it's not, and that's okay. It's okay that it's not going to be more of the same, because what Daredevil on Netflix was largely pretty good, but there was a lot of filler and
yeah,
there was a lot of stuff that wasn't great. So if you can really,
it's this is the no, they have to nail this. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They're bringing the gang is back together under the House of M, basically. You
mm-hmm,
know what I mean?
yep, yep.
Kevin Feige is not gonna want to mess this one up. He like, do we have the creatives behind it though? Like, is John
It's
Favreau gonna be involved in this in any capacity? Like,
it's
what's
unclear. It's unclear. I don't think they know. I don't. I mean, they might know who's involved, but it says it just talks about the stars so far. So there's no announcements
yeah,
on that.
I'm just like a Daredevil, with a big budget and just
Well, do you kind of wish that it was a
running
movie?
around. Uh, I guess, but then it's like because it's you just think about the Ben Affleck movie. You know what I
Well,
mean?
here's the thing. What I think is that it's been years since that Ben Affleck movie. I think a lot of people
Yeah, but
don't even know
okay,
that
like
movie
here's another
exists.
Elektra, here's another Kingpin, here's another Bullseye.
Right, I guess. But
Oh,
at the
but
same,
his suit is
yeah,
better, and we're gonna film his whip thing a bit better.
right.
Like I don't,
Yeah,
like you can't just do it again. Like I think Feige knows you gotta change it up.
Well, they
By
did. I
Thor
mean,
when it's out.
I guess. I mean, I suppose like I'm not. Listen, I'm excited for this because it allows a Daredevil who's going to appear. They already showed it in a teaser in Miss Marvel, or sorry,
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk,
They don't really
and
show him, but they show him, and you can see that he has a yellow and red suit,
yeah,
which
his little
is
gold, on there.
or
I
yellow,
don't love
brown,
that
red.
suit, by the way. Do you like that one? I've seen it now. I've seen it now in a couple pictures, and I don't
No, I
love
like
it.
the red. I like the all black and like red accent one.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
But obviously that one's a little off-putting. But I think it's cool that he's showing up in there, and then like I hope someone like Wolverine shows up in this series
Yeah.
because that
Yes.
would reflect the comics where Wolverine's first appearance was in a Hulk issue. So if
Yeah.
Wolverine just shows up somehow in this because she meets, I guess, a pretty diverse cast of characters
Right.
with her job.
You
Um,
think that so you like in a She-Hulk season 2 or something, you get a Wolverine cameo?
maybe, yeah,
That would be cool. I mean, you have to cast
because Hulk is in
Wolverine.
the show too,
Yeah. Yeah.
so he
It's
could
gonna have a
even
big role
cross
actually.
paths with him.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, the X-Men stuff, it'll come. We'll be excited. It's like we have all this other
We'll
stuff
be
to be excited
excited.
about. We'll be excited. I'm excited to think
Well, they're
about being excited
satiating
about it.
all this with the 97, the cartoon.
Yeah.
That's going to be at
Yes.
the forefront of
Not
X-Men and nothing else X-Men. It'll just be that while that's happening.
well. I disagree because that X-Men show is not set to come out until like 2024 or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no way.
X-Men 97, or at least not till next year.
I'd
97.
imagine next year, but we're not getting an X-Men movie this year or next year.
Oh, it says sometime in 2023, so probably late 2023. Is my guess. So maybe
Wow.
this time next year, a year from now, give or take.
We'll see.
I mean, you're right. I mean, that'll satiate us for a little while. I don't understand the backlash on the She-Hulk stuff. I think that show looks fine.
Well, it was just a CG from the first initial
Yeah, it
trailer,
didn't
but
look great. It'll be better.
It's an uncanny valley type thing. Like it's yeah, that's all it is. It's
Yeah,
just
it turns
CG
out
on
our
top
eyes
of
aren't used to looking
real.
at green people. That
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's
It's
CG
weird.
on top of real like motion, but
Yeah.
in a non CG environment, and it's just a little odd. But like, it also looks that way in the comics too. I mean, she's just bright green, like
Right, wearing a business suit.
yeah.
So I mean, we brushed past a couple things, but Secret Invasion, we already knew about that. Gets a release date. Blade gets a release date.
Yeah, no new news on that.
No
but
news really.
we just know that it's going to be like, I guess, a new version of Agents of Shield, right? Like, it'll be there because it's
Yeah,
going to focus on
basically.
Samuel Jackson,
Yeah,
right?
and
Shield.
well,
And
I don't know if it's a
Maria
new
Hill is
version
back
of it.
again.
Jeremy, nothing can replace.
Dude, Maria Hill
Agents
is
of
back
S.H.I.E.L.D..
at Comic-Con again. Can you believe it?
I
She was
what
brought out for the Ant-Man, I think.
Yeah, Jeremy, I don't know what to tell you. I really like her as Maria Hill. I've always liked her as Maria Hill. I've not
I don't know. I think
I have nothing
she's
wrong to say about
I
her.
think she's awful, to be honest.
Really,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Why? What has she done? She's barely been in these movies.
So like just I guess she just understood the assignment, I guess, but there's nothing else to it.
Business,
So
only business, down to business, right? That's her role. We announced
very
we found
cool
out
in the first movie for sure.
Oh yeah, super. I think she's cool in every appearance, but
then she's just kind of wasted after that. I feel like.
Well, she's barely been in. That's what I mean. She's barely been in them. She makes a small.
But I just think it's funny that she
Spider-Man
still has this role, and like she's like coming like at the forefront of Comic-Con.
Yeah, and people are stoked.
Yeah, good for her.
Echo is going to feature a bunch of Daredevil stuff, which is really the only reason I'm excited for that show. And then Ironheart. This is obviously like the idea that there's a female Iron Man. She's gonna take on the mantle for Tony Stark. That's good. She's gonna be announced and revealed as a part of a Disney Plus series. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that's being teased for Young Avengers that's not in here. That's likely to come as well. And then you have let's see what else. We talked about Ant-Man and the Wasp, talked about Blade, She-Hulk. Oh, and then finally Thunderbolts. It was revealed that Thunderbolts will conclude Phase 5 in summer of 2024.
Everybody knows about the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, everyone's favorite team of superheroes, the Thunderbolts. This one's interesting. I was listening to the to the Filmcast guys, and they had on a guest, and they was talking about how the Thunderbolts, like the challenge of the Thunderbolts is that they're a team of superheroes, a team of supervillains posing as superheroes, right? And we've met most of the team. You know, we've got Yelena, we've got that Captain America guy. What's his name?
U.S. agent.
U.S. agent. Thank you. And probably maybe Bucky. I don't know. Like, there's a bunch of potential characters that are going to fill these roles, right? Maybe a Red Hulk, that kind of stuff. But not many people know about these characters. They're kind of like C tier characters, right? But what Marvel's done so well since the beginning is elevated C tier characters, because that's all they had, right? So they know how to do that. And I'm excited to. I say that a lot, obviously, but I kind of like the challenge of, like, how do you market this show? How do you or is it a show or is it a movie? Actually, now I think about it, it's a movie, right? And how do you pitch this as a film for people to go see with a bunch of characters that no one really cares about? I think that's going to be fascinating.
Is it a movie?
It says it will conclude Phase 5 on July 26, 2024. Let me go back and check it.
You have to see what he says, though, because it doesn't.
I'm going back to the larger thing that has, like, the different Thunderbolts. Does not have the Disney Plus logo.
If it's a team
does not have it does not have the Disney Plus logo underneath it. It's a movie.
Looks like it's I guess like U.S. agent will probably be in Captain America.
Yeah. Well, especially if it's picking up from what that. Well, plus they'll have what's her name, played by the lady from what the hell is her name? She's got like 4 names. She's like their Nick Fury, or whatever, from Seinfeld. But that'll be interesting. I don't know. We don't know much about them. There's, like, everyone's doing these explainers about who the Thunderbolts are. I like the concept. I like the challenge that it poses the Marvel people, the creatives, of how to do it. It's interesting that it concludes a phase, which then I think picks up with Fantastic Four right after that. So, you know, what does that mean? How does that kind of break work? I don't know. I'm interested. Anything on this that we haven't really talked about that you wanted to mention before we wrap up here?
Well, I think later on they announced who's directing the Kang Dynasty, because there was a bunch of questions over directors, and I believe it's the director of Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi,
yes. Yeah. He is what's his name? Destin Daniel Cretton, maybe.
Which I think it's a very cool choice. I mean,
yes,
because
100%.
I think that was one of our favorite Marvel movies in recent years. Like, very exciting, energetic, great action.
Oh, that first action sequence on the bus,
the environment.
Jeremy?
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's very
buddy.
cohesive.
Yeah,
like, and then so that's super exciting. That's all we know about the Kang Dynasty, and obviously, what's his name? Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah, he'll be the lead villain there. But then there's all these questions over the Russo brothers, who obviously elevated the Marvel kind of.
They've been having
Endgame,
a tough.
Infinity
they've been
War,
having
right?
a tough news cycle recently. They have, but it's fine. They're okay.
Well, I mean, of course they're okay. And just a side note, I felt compelled to watch The Gray Man on Netflix
because
I'm like, why isn't everyone watching The Gray Man? I mean, it's directed by the Russo brothers. Like,
right?
Look what they've
starring
look at the last movies.
Chris Evans. Yeah, and
Captain America: Civil War, the one before that one, Winter Soldier, which everyone loves.
Yeah.
Infinity War, Endgame, right? So it's like you almost got to give these guys a shot on this Gray Man movie.
And
I mean, I turned it off after 32 minutes. I feel
no, 32. Jeremy's the most expensive Netflix movie.
No, I think there's a time and place to watch it. I just wasn't down for that huge roller coaster ride, I guess, of like 9 action scenes. But the first one was very good. Like, he's got like this.
Sure.
He's like fighting all these guys like with like a can that's like cracked and it's like spraying mist everywhere. So he's kind of like disguising himself around all these guys when he's fighting them, like
Oh, that's
using the
cool.
can to like punch them in the face and stuff.
You haven't seen that before. It's
Yeah,
interesting to
like
do.
it was
Yeah.
pretty slick, but then it kind of just you fall into another action scene and it's like incoherent kind of, and like I know like I don't know, I just feel like the Rooster Brothers like
It's a Jeremy. It's a Netflix problem. It's not a Russo brothers
yeah,
problem.
well, but then I watched a variety segment of them when they go over their scenes in movies, and like I love how
Right.
technical they speak and like their process and is very cool. Like they talk about how they make like an animated movie of the movie before the movie, where it's essentially the movie before the movie,
Right.
and it exists in like this really
Animatics.
shitty
Yeah.
animatic like form that's like comical, like how it looks, but they need that visual representation to send to the CG crews to
Yes.
render all that stuff and
Yep.
create that
Yep.
stuff.
That's how That's how
Um,
the Disney Star Wars stuff kind
but
of
then
plays
so
out.
they're very meticulous in how they storyboard literally everything, but they like to shoot things like twice, I guess. Like they go like they put it into the movie after they shoot it, but then they like brainstorm and work around like, hey, how can we make that better? And then they have an idea, they go back and shoot it again with that idea and make it
So you
like
feel
the
like
best.
they missed that second step in this movie?
Well, I think they were touting this 9 action scene type like
Is that maybe
event.
too many?
Well, it's like there's like once you get to one where it's not that exciting. Like you're not doing anything new here. You have a shaky cam. You know, Ryan's on one part of the screen, then he's on the other, and then like
Right.
it's just it's incoherent sometimes.
Well,
It's not
I
as
think
fluid as like most like action directors, and we forget that these guys came from like Arrested Development and
yes.
Community, and like it's weird how they got like what's the biggest like
Right.
I don't know, like they definitely are good. Like I'm definitely a fan of them. I love Winter Soldier. Civil War was a huge moment in the
I just think
MCU.
that like action movies like The Gray Man, they lose me because it's like it feels like why should I care about these action scenes? You have to make me care about the characters first before if they get into an action sequence it's just like oh it's just like noise signifying nothing, right? And so and that's how I felt about a lot of Netflix movies. I still kind of want to watch it just
And
to
then what
see,
else turned me off was
but
that every time they changed location, they do the whole like in big white letters that cover
right.
the entire screen. And it's like enough.
That's their
That
shtick.
was
What do you mean?
popular
That's
for
their
a bit. It's too much. It's like for like a long duration of time too, where
oh,
you get to
okay.
see
You're missing stuff.
Bangkok. It's like,
Right.
hey, we get it. We're jet setters. We're going all over the globe.
Right.
Like no one's keeping track of this. It's 2.5 hours, 9 action scenes. How many places around the globe? Like he's a secret agent, and like,
Chris
but
Evans. See, here's
there's
the thing. I
Chris
don't
Evans is a
have a,
bad guy
like
though. He's kind of exciting because it's like very different.
I like Chris Evans' choices, generally speaking. Like he did Knives Out, awesome, cool
Same
role,
with Ryan Reynolds though,
right?
or Ryan Gosling. Sorry.
Yeah, and well, I have less faith in Gosling's. He does make
Really?
good movies, but he also makes weird movies. I mean, he's gonna be canon in the Barbie
The
movie.
energy.
Yeah. Anyway, but like, wait, Jeremy, what was that?
The Kenergy.
is that is that like a buzz thing that's coming around that movie or what?
Have you not seen the interview where he talks about it? He can barely contain
No,
his laughter. He talks about
that's fu-
Kenergy.
that's
And he
funny.
says it's in the interviewer, and the interviewer's like, "No, I don't have it." He's like, "Really? No." He's like, "You'll see. Like, you'll watch the movie. You'll see."
You'll see. I
Ryan
love when
Gosling
people
is
say you'll
absolutely
see.
hilarious.
I love when people say you'll see. You'll see. Um. So that's The Gray Man. I am excited to see it. Even just to see if it's not good. Then we've got Nope, a movie that I just saw recently. I it's really, 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 really good, is my opinion on Nope. I really have to force myself to like go see these movies because they are
Yeah.
horror movies in a lot of ways. And there are elements of this movie that
Make you
absolutely
feel
terrified
uncomfortable.
me. Yeah, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that. And like here's the thing,
That's the point.
I know other people like that. I know that they do. I'm happy for you, but that was difficult for me. I'll be honest. So that being said, I love the twist. The movie has a really cool twist. Sorry, spoilers. There's a twist, and it's really just like if whatever your expectations were from the trailers, be prepared to be surprised. That's really it, which I love because I thought that they had given away too much in the trailers, and it turns out that's not true, which is cool. It's an idea I've never seen before. I love the performances in it. It's very eerie. It's got some good humor, just like he always brings to his movies. And it didn't make a ton of money at the box office. I think in its second week, it lost to the Super Pets movie at the box office. So just keep that in context. But I think it did come to, I think it was number one at the box office its first week, 30, 40 million, something like that. There's some people that I think don't get the movie, and I think the movie has less of a clear like parable, less of a clear like metaphor for what the movie's trying to say. In some, like as just a pure sci-fi horror movie, totally works. Absolutely nailed it. As like political commentary, I don't think its message is as clear, but it doesn't need to be, in my opinion. Like it could just be that and enjoyed in that way, and as a sci-fi horror movie. It's great. It has its own message. It's just not as coherent as as like Get Out, which is like obvious and in your face, right? But it's ingrained in the story. This is the kind of message here is not as ingrained, but the spectacle that is Nope. Absolutely, you have to see this movie in IMAX. It's so cool. It's just very awesome. I also watched Cocktail, the movie with the from the 80s with Tom Cruise, because I can't go more than a couple days without watching a Tom Cruise movie. Because in fact, yesterday I watched.
You finally seen The Match Trick?
No, I watched Edge of Tomorrow again, which totally holds up.
You didn't watch Cocktail?
I watched Cocktail,
okay.
and I watched.
But that's the first time you've seen it.
That's the first time I've seen it. Yes.
So you now know about The Match Trick.
Yes, I do. Yes,
okay.
thank you. Yeah. Here's the best part of Cocktail, his outfits. He's wearing these like Hawaiian shirts through most of the movie, and they are awesome. Super cool. Like every time he put on a new shirt, I was like, I want that shirt. And like it has this really crazy moment about 3/4 of the way through the movie. Not to spoil it, that I did not see coming at all, and kind of totally changes the tone of the movie, which is largely pretty light throughout. Like most of the movie is like pretty light. He's kind of a dick, but he's also trying to be better, and he's got a dream, and yada yada, all this stuff, right? But and it's mostly just a romance movie, like just like a lot of Tom Cruise's stuff in the 80s. He's just a romance wrapped in some kind of interesting wrapper, right?
He's a lover, not a fighter.
Exactly. And then there's this moment at like right at the second act break that's like very intense, and I think gives
People
the movie
can be
a different
intense
feel.
Sometimes.
Well,
you think you know someone.
Are you feel? Do you know what I'm talking about, Jeremy? You know the moment I'm talking about? Yeah. The bromance, like the kind of this like this guy, his like mentor character is so interesting. Like I thought it was like a really cool character. I feel like that dynamic has been ripped off so many times, or that specific idea of a character has been ripped off so many times since Cocktail. I'm glad I saw this movie. I think it's pretty good. It's not Top Gun, but it's pretty good. And then lastly, I saw Sea Beast on Netflix, and I talk a lot about shit about Netflix movies, but this is an animated Netflix movie, and Netflix's animated stuff is almost always better. And Sea Beast is awesome. It's super fucking cool. Like I really can't express how cool I think this movie. It's a pirate movie. It's just like, what if pirates, but instead of fighting each other, they fought giant sea monsters. Okay? That's the premise. And it looks awesome. It does this like faux handheld camera look where it like does these like tracking shots and stuff that it would be really hard to do in live action, but in CG it like totally blends stuff together, and it's really cool. Like it's got Carl Urban as the lead actor here.
Nice.
And I just think Carl Urban needs to do more work, so I'm always happy to see him here. And he's kind of doing like a toned down version of the character he has from The Boys, if you can believe that. Obviously, much less swearing and whatnot, but very similar. And it has Jared Harris as this like his mentor captain, like badass pirate captain character, and he's awesome in this movie. Like, I really can't speak highly enough about Sea Beast. Like, if you're looking for like a good, like, it's pretty intense, I think, for like younger kids. Like, I wouldn't probably, if they're like 5 or younger, I probably wouldn't show them this movie. But like anyone above that, I think can get a lot. Like, literally anybody over the age of 5 should be able to watch this movie and absolutely enjoy it. There's stuff for someone of every age. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I had an absolute blast. I could see kids having an absolute blast watching this movie. It looks great. It sounds great. Especially on an HDR TV. Oh, the colors, they pop. The cinematography is gorgeous. Like, I love the framing. That some of these choices they make is so cool. It's pretty dark in elements. Its messages is predictable, sure, but still interesting. Like, the sets they created for this is all awesome. I think it's great. Go watch Sea Beast. I can't speak highly enough about it. It's awesome. So yeah. Anyway, that's all the movies we've been watching. That's a long one. I'm aware of that. But
I apologize.
There was just a lot. There was just so much to cover. Like, we had to catch up. Listen, if it was just Comic-Con stuff, and we would have probably touched on the Emmys, we would have been in and out of here in an hour and a half. Okay, but sure. What was that? Is that the trailer?
That's my ringtone.
Sorry, it's your alarm saying the show's over.
Exactly.
So, as I understand that, but this whole DC Warner Brothers thing kind of dropped in our lap, and we kind of have to talk about it. In fact, I had people asking me when we were going to record a podcast on this. Both
really?
in the Discord channel, which of course you get access to as part of our Patreon. But even friends of ours who Max,
people are shocked,
right? Like, people wanted to hear what we had to say about this
answers.
one. Yeah, people want to understand, and I hope we brought some clarity. We'll see. More to come, obviously, with Warner Brothers. Keep a close eye on that organization, because if nothing else, they're very entertaining.
Thursday. Huge meetings,
right? I can't wait. We'll talk about that next episode. But until then, like I said, follow us on Twitter, Facebook at Tower Babblecast. Subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. And we will see you again very soon with more TOB. We'll talk to you then.